Hi loves, welcome or welcome back to the channel. On this video we'll be drafting, cutting and sewing this very beautiful drop waist gathered Ankara dress. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. For this tutorial, these are the items you'll be needing, and this is your sign to use your leftover fabric to create something that is very beautiful. I have 1 yard of this crepe fabric, but if you are above size 10, 1 yard might not be enough for you. The next thing we have here is our lace fabric. This is the type of lace we'll be using. I have about 1 yard, but I'll just be using like roughly half yard. I don't need all the 1 yard for this tutorial. Then the next thing we have is this fabric that remained from a previous video that I did. If you have not yet seen that video, go and check it out. This is the remaining fabric, and what I have here is not up to 2 yards, but it's more than 1.5. This is your sign. If you have leftover fabric that is not up to 2 yards or 3 yards, you can use it and sew this very beautiful style. We have our lycra lining. So I prefer using lycra lining because I like that it's stretchy instead of using the normal cotton lining. So this is everything we'll be needing. We are going to start drafting our pattern. We are going to be drafting both the front and the back on this paper. The only thing is that I'll be making some adjustments on the back panel to suit in for the front, and we'll be using this same pattern to cut out for both the front and the back. So the first thing we want to do is to draw our starting line, and our starting line is going to be our shoulder line. From this shoulder line, I'll be taking my vertical measurement: chest line at 8 inches, bust point at 10 inches, waistline at 16 inches, and my hip point at 23 inches. My hip point is also going to be serving as my full length for the top half of this dress. I'm going to just draw a line across this point. So we are going to be drafting for the back first. So bear in mind that we are using a red marker to draft for the back. Then after drafting for the back, we'll use a different color of marker and make adjustments so it will be fitting into the front. Let me label these things first. The first thing I want to mark out for this back is our zipper allowance. For our zipper allowance, I'm just going to go in by 1.5 inch all the way to the end of this thing. So this is our zipper allowance, and any other measurements we'll be placing, we are not going to be adding this part. So from this point, I'm going to be going in by 3 inches, and I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and this is going to serve for my neckline for the back. Now the next we'll be doing is our shoulder. Our shoulder measurement divided by 2. We'll be placing that same 8 inches on our chest line. So just divide your back shoulder by 2, place it on your shoulder line and on your chest line. On this armhole line that we just drew now, I'll be coming down by 1 inch. I'll be using a slant line to connect it back to the neckline. This is to serve as our shoulder slope. Then we will measure the rest of this armhole line, find the midpoint. On the midpoint, we'll come in by 1/2 inch from this shoulder slope to the midpoint down to the chest line. So we have our armhole. The next thing we'll be placing is going to be our dart. For our dart, we will not be placing it on this bust point. We'll be placing it on the chest line. So for our dart, we do our nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Place it on our chest line, waist point, hip, which is our full length. We use a straight line to join this point. On my waist point, I will be coming out on both sides by 1/2 inch, joining it to my chest line with a slant line like this, join it to my hip with a slant line as well. So this is what we have. I'm now going to place my round measurement. I'll be placing my bust round divided by 4. Measure what we have for the dart here, which is about 1/4 inch, and replace it here. Because the fabric we are working with is very stretchy, I'm just going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is not really necessary because when we are shaping this dress, we'll be taking a negative ease. I'll be placing my waist round measurement divided by 4, replacing the dart, which is about 1 inch, adding my 1/2 inch seam allowance. For the hip point, I'll be placing my hip round divided by 4, adding my 1/2 inch seam allowance. This is what we have. I'm going to join these points together with a curl. Next, I will be adjusting the zipper area. So we don't have a zipper bulge at the back.
On my waistline, I'm going to divide what I have on my zipper allowance by 2, connect it towards my chest line like so and towards the hip line like so. So this is going to help us remove the zipper bulge at the back. Now that we are done drafting for the back pieces, the next thing we'll be doing is to adjust this pattern for the front pieces. And I'll be using this black marker. One of the differences between the front and the back is that the dart coming from the waist stops on the bust points and not on the chest line for the front pieces. So I'm going to use my marker to adjust my dart to stop at that bust point. And when I'm tracing it out on my fabric, I'll be tracing it out to stop on that bust point.
Another difference is on the neckline. So for our front pieces, we want it to have a V neckline. From this shoulder point, I'm going to come down with about 6.5 inches. And from this point, I'll connect it to this shoulder line like this. This is going to be our neckline for the front. And when we are cutting for the front, we'll be cutting here on a fold. And we're going to fold out this zipper allowance and cut it for the front. So I'm going to quickly cut this out and show you guys what I mean. For the back pieces, we'll be cutting 2 pieces of this. Now that we are done cutting out the back pieces, I'm going to fold in this part and this part. Now we have our pattern for our front pieces. Fold my fabric into 2. Make sure that this point is on this fold, and I'm going to cut this out. We have our front pieces. This half inch that we are leaving here is our joining allowance to join it to the gathers that we have down. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the same thing we have for our main fabric on our lining. After cutting out the lining, this is what I have. Now what I'm going to do is that I'll open up my lining, place my main fabric on it, right side facing each other, making sure that it's aligning properly. Then I'm going to stitch along the neckline with about 1/2 inch, and after doing that, I will notch it and turn it over to the back, and I will be stitching the end. I'll be doing the same thing for the back pieces. After turning our neckline and stitching the sides, this is what it's looking like. Okay, I went ahead to iron it out. Now I'm going to take out our dart. Take out our dart. This is what we are going to do. I'm going to place our pattern paper, because this is the front. Remember that we used black marker. So I'm just going to trace this black line here, not the red one. I'm going to use my pin to follow this black line. This is how to trace out your dart. So now that I've placed it, remember that we used the black line for our front dart. So I'm just going to try and trace out this line so that we can take out our dart. I'm going to use my chalk to make it more visible. So this is what we'll be sewing, and this point is going to be our dart. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the other half side. After stitching this one, I'm going to also trace out my dart for the back on these back pieces as well. So after taking out the dart for the front, this is what it looks like. And after taking out for the back as well, this is what it looks like. The next thing we are going to do is to place over the front, right side facing each other. Like we'll be joining the shoulders. We are going to open up this shoulder and the lining, stitching the main fabric together with the lining together with about 1/2 inch. And we'll be doing the same thing for this point. After joining the shoulders, this is what we have. Okay, you see how neat it's looking. We are not having any rough edges. I'm going to keep this aside and work on the sleeve. So this is the paper I will be using to draft my sleeve pieces. I'll start by drawing a line across this top to serve as my starting point. And from this starting point, I'll be placing my sleeve length. My sleeve length is going to be 25, but because we have that flayed pin at the hand, I'm going to be marking at 21. Then I'll be marking my biceps at 5. Draw a line across this point. I'll be dividing my biceps measurement by 2, and that is 5 for this particular dress. For my full sleeve, my wrist round is 8. I will divide it by 2 and I will mark it here, which is 4. Now I'm going to join these 2 points together. The next thing I'm going to do is to divide my armhole round by 4. I'm going to be marking it on this my starting line. Anything I have from my starting line to my biceps, I'll be dividing it by 2. So I'm going to mark at this point. Now I'm going to make a curve that will come from this top, passing through this mark that I made into the biceps. I'll make a curve like this. Now I'm going to be adding my allowance. For this particular sleeve, I'll be using half inch because it's a lace sleeve. I don't want to have so much after stitching. So I just added half inch. I'm going to make a tiny curve from this allowance into the armhole. So this is what we have for our sleeve. I'm going to quickly cut this out and then I'll show you guys how we'll be cutting the peplon. For the peplon on the sleeve, I'm just going to fold this my fabric into two. So I'll be doing it on this paper. At this point, I'm going to place my wrist measurement divided by 2, which is 4. Okay, this is not up to 4 inches, so I'm still going to bring it down a little. I'm just trying to make sure that anything we have around here is up to 4 inches. This is 4.25, which is perfect because we are still going to be adding our allowance. Remember, for this top we use 21 and our sleeve length is supposed to be 25. I'll place that 21 here and I'll measure 25 this way. Shift my tape and mark 25. I'll continue shifting my tape like this so I can get something that looks like a semicircle. I'm going to go ahead and join these points together and I'll be cutting it open. After that, this is what I have. So when I'm cutting, I'll be adding half-inch allowance to this point, 1 inch allowance to this point, half-inch allowance to this side, and half-inch allowance to this side as well. I'll be cutting the Ankara fabric and I'll be cutting the lace fabric here. This part is going to be on a fold and I'll be cutting 2 pieces. I'm not folding anything, it's already folded. So I'm just going to cut 2 pieces of this. After cutting out our sleeve, I went ahead to join these peplon parts to the lace, and this is what it's looking like. I'm going to attach my sleeve to my main fabric and I will be shaping the sides of this dress. After attaching our sleeve and shaping the sides, this is what we have, okay, and this is our sleeve. Now we are going to go ahead and work on the gathers that is going to be down. This is what I will be working with. I folded it into 3 like this so that it will be easy for me to cut it. So let me fold it again. So this is the first fold and this is the second fold. I folded it to 3 equal parts. So remember that when we were cutting out the top, we stopped at point 23 and that point 23 is our hip point. Now I will be placing this at 21 and a half. We'll be using half inches to join the lining and we'll be using the rest of the 1 inch as that ruffle we have around that joining. So we'll be placing it at 21 and a half. The full length I'm working with is 39 and a half. So I'll be leaving this 1 inch to serve as my hemming allowance. So I'm going to be cutting at 40 and a half. We have 3 pieces like this. I'm going to join all these pieces together. I'll join all the pieces together so that we'll have one very long pieces. After joining all the points so that we'll have one long pieces, I'm going to go ahead and hem here with the 1 inch that we added. After joining the 3 pieces and hemming one end, as you can see, we hemmed this part. This is what we have. We have these very long pieces. I went ahead to cut out our lining, okay, just as long as these pieces. Now watch what I'm going to do. This edge that was not hemmed, this part was hemmed, this part was not hemmed. So this point that was not hemmed, I'm going to place our lining there, right side facing the right side like this, and I'm going to be stitching it all the way to the other end, and when I'm done I will flip it over to the back like this. After attaching our lining to the main fabric, this is what we have. As you can see, our lining pieces is shorter than the main fabric, so it doesn't show when we are done sewing. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure this point on my main dress. So I'm going to take the measurement from this point all the way to the other zipper allowance. Here we have 41 inches. I'm going to be threading my needle. Any thread I'm going to have on this needle is going to be longer than 41 inches at least. Now that I'm done threading my needle, I'm going to come down with about 1 inch. We are not going to gather at the tip. We are going to come down with about 1 inch like this, and I'm going to start gathering at this point. Make loose stitches till I get to the other end of the fabric. After gathering it, this is what we have. Okay, this is what it's looking like. You see, we have the rough edges around here. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring my top pieces like this. I'm going to place my top pieces and I'll place this on top of it all the way to the other end, and I'm going to be stitching just on top of this Ankara fabric, trying my best to follow the line that I used to gather it. I hope you understand. So I will be stitching just on top of this thing like this. After joining these points to our dress, this is what our dress is looking like. The thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and fix my my zipper, and I'll be using this 24-inch zipper so that it goes all the way down, fixing my zipper and closing it off, interlocking all the rough edges on, ironing it out, and this is my final look. Hope this tutorial was helpful. If it was, let me know in the comment section. If you have any questions, also let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.